Well, what is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have something cool on the table from CJRB. We really do. This is the new Scoria. But hey, before we get into this, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel if you would. I would love to have you here on a regular basis. Also, hit that like button. It does help the channel out in some surprisingly cool ways. All right, let's get to the Scoria. So this knife was released at Blade Show. There are two versions. There is this version, and there is a version in red coral micarta. This happens to be my favorite version, so this is the one we're going to look at today. This is AR RPM 9. They're powdered budget steel. I love that stuff. It is rust resistant. It is stain resistant. It holds an edge very well for budget steel. And it doesn't manage to drive the price of the knife up too much. And I see we have rocked the mat just a little bit, you know. Anyway, let's take a look at what you get. First, this is a really attractive knife. I love the swedge across the top of the drop point blade. I absolutely love the edge they've put on this thing. It is very nice and slicey. The look on this one, this is the reason I chose it. The black G10 with the silver hardware and the titanium pocket clip, which is screwed in from underneath, which is a very nice feature, gives this just a really refined look. These knives are about 60 bucks, which is completely reasonable. The coral micarta has the same black blade and the same hardware, just it has their double red coral micarta scales. I think this one just looks better. Now, unfortunately, CJRB has chosen not to offer us a plain blade version of this, and I really wish they had, because this blade is gorgeous. It's a reasonably thin slice of their AR RPM 9, which is perfectly okay with me, because it goes very well with a very thin overall knife. It's comfortable in hand. It's got a really nice forward choil if you want to, I know, but you want to get up and do fine work, which I still, even as a reviewer, I don't really know what that means, because if I want to work with a knife and do fine work, I tend to hold it this way and cut. But anyway, it has a nice forward finger choil. It is very comfortable. The overall knife shape is straightforward and simple, which is part of where I use the term elegant, because it is very comfortable in hand. There have been some CJRBs that I really, really like. This is another in that line. I'm a huge fan of the Dylan Mallory design stuff. I'm a huge fan of the most recent Tigress, which is just a chunk beast of a knife, and yet very cool just the same. This is nicer than both of those in the simple fact because it is, like I said, it's more refined. They've done a great job here. They really have. And of course, I like the all blacked out, kind of cool looking, you know, it is very cool looking as knives go. Let's get some basic specs out of the way before we get too much further. If we put the tip of the blade right there on the line, you're looking at just a hair over 3 inches of cutting on 3.5 inches of AR RPM 9 steel. The grip area from behind the choil. That's twice I've done that in the last couple of weeks. Grip area from behind the flipper tab there is 1, 2, 3, just shy of a little over 3 3/4, so just shy of 4 inches all the way up to the end, which means there's even knife sticking out the back for me, which is very nice. If we add in the forward choil, 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 inches of grip. So there's tons of room to move around on this knife, and it is very, well, it's actually a little pokey too if you need that. It is very comfortable to hold on to. It's great to use too. I've cut all the basic media. I'm not sure what the coating on the blade is, but it holds up very well. Now, mind you, again, when I'm cutting, I'm fairly careful in that I don't cut into staples and I don't cut into hard edges of things. I work so that I'm not marking up, I put a little oil in there. I work so that I'm not marking up the blade because, well, careful use means a long life for the knife. The knife itself is just at 8 inches, which is a perfectly sized knife. Let's do some size comparisons. All right, we're just at 8 inches. So let's see. Here it is against the Rat Model 1. Let's move it up a little bit. And as you can see, the Rat 1 is just generally bigger. You can get a little more blade on the Rat 1 because of that forward choil. Here it is against the Bug Out. So I was watching a Zach Stuff live the other night. I actually had to watch it after he was done with it, where he rebuilt somebody's really damaged bug out, and God, did he do a good job. And now that I've seen the inside of one of these, I don't generally take my knives apart unless I have to. I am sort of more into the bug out than I was. As you can see, the Scoria is bigger than the bug out, but not by much, right? The bug out is not a tiny knife. It's just small for me. The Scoria is much more comfortable in hand for me. It has a little more grip, a little more swell in the handle. It's a little thicker, but not much. It is a thin knife. I keep coming back to that. We'll measure it out in just a minute. The action on the Scoria is very good. Smooth without being uncontrollable. The thumb studs work beautifully. Flipper tab works beautifully. Let's check the detent. Yeah, you can flip it out if you force it. So detent is not soft, but it's not overly firm either. Now, it is a liner lock. And we are locked up at about 40%, which is a perfectly good place to stop. It is a steel liner on the lock side and a steel liner on the show side as well. They are drilled out to give a little bit of weight reduction. It's a reasonably light knife. Let's do two more size comparisons while we're thinking about it. Here it is against the Rat Model 2, which is a tiny knife to me because of the cramped handle area. And as you can see, it's much bigger than that. And our old friend, the full size Presidio 2, which just dwarfs it, right? This is a great user knife. I hope that CJRB learns lessons from this. One of the lessons I hope they learn is that they should do more stuff like this. I also hope that this knife is popular enough that they release it in more options. For instance, a plain blade, different colors for you folks that like it, but I would love a plain blade black handle version of this knife. Absolutely would make my day. You can flip the pocket clip from this side to this side. There's no plate blocking that out if you're interested in doing such a thing. Because it's a liner lock, it's going to be a little awkward for lefties, but it is an option, which I think is very cool. It is a simple construction with just the pivot and two screws that hold in barrel spacers, which I like quite a bit. And I think it's pretty. I keep saying that. The thumb studs being silver, they don't quite match the blade, but they do match the rest of the hardware. The closed profile on this knife is 1.25 inches or just about 1.5 inches with the flipper. Now, the flipper is a little bit of a pocket pecker. It does stick out, but that's flippers. It kind of has to do that in order to work. It is, however, there's no jimping on anywhere on the blade. It'd be nice if there was a little jimping, but there isn't. However, the way they designed that flipper, it works just every single time, and you can push button it, or you can light switch it. They've done a good thing here. There is a lanyard hole, runs its way through both sides of the scale if you're into that sort of thing. One thing I like about this is even though it's not deep carry, I mean, there's a little bit of knife sticking out, but they managed to put the lanyard hole in a spot that doesn't interfere with the pocket clip. This is a lesson that Spyderco could learn. Let's go ahead and get the blade stock. Like I said, it's reasonably thin. So I think we're going to be, let's get that zeroed out. Yeah, that's really nice. Let's do millimeters. So we're just under 3 millimeters. They showing up? Yep, just under 3 millimeters. 2.77 millimeters. I am. Oh, sorry about that. I rocked the camera a little bit. I am not averse. Oh my goodness. There we go. To thin blade stock because it allows them to get down to a really slicey edge. And since this is not a hard use knife, I mean, you're not going to confuse it with that. Thinner stock means you get a slicier knife. And I'm all for that. And I over lubricated this a little bit. Let's go ahead and weigh it. We rearranged our living room the other day. And that means that all of my tools that used to be over here on the left are now on the right. And I am still very much getting used to that. All right. Let's see where she weighs in. 3.6 ounces for a 3.5-inch blade. Almost right at that ounce per inch. If you're super into lightweight knives, we'll get a bug out. But if you're into knives that are light enough, the Scoria here would absolutely serve you. And they have very similar cutting profiles, which is very nice, and very similar blade stock. So you just get more blade with the Scoria. Yeah. So what's the final analysis? Well, if you're looking for a $60 knife that's going to serve you incredibly well, that happens to look very cool also, the CJRB Scoria may very well be the knife for you. I actually bought this one. I was given by Artisan, or CJRB as the case may be, the red Micarta one to review, but I just don't love that much. So I picked up this one because I knew it was more my style, and I wasn't wrong. Either choice is excellent. I just like this blacked out version. I think it's very cool. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this look at the CJRB Scoria. I know I've enjoyed having it. This one is mine, so I will continue to enjoy having it. If you have any questions about this knife or any of my knives, feel free to ask down in the comments below. I hope you guys are having a great day. We'll see you next time.